everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the HooperCast. My name is Connor Dempsey. You're on my blog. Alright, it's a strange thing today because we're going to talk about a movie I like, which is odd because at least the first 2 episodes have been about movies I really didn't like, but I didn't know if I wanted that to be the format. It's easier to talk about a movie that I hate, so maybe this episode will end up being shorter. It really depends. There's not much to say about it. I'm going to try and work on being more articulate and explaining why I like something. Maybe that will make it easier to understand why I would hate something. But it's a lot easier to talk about things you don't like. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that, at least for this podcast, it makes for a more entertaining episode if you're sitting there going, well, the cinematography is just breathtaking and, there's so much art to behold in this movie. It's just a lot easier to say, like, God, this movie sucks. Why would you do that? And this and this and this and I don't know. It's harder, but I'm gonna do my best, and particularly because I need to put out an episode because I want to try and be consistent, and I haven't seen anything bad recently. The only other thing I've seen besides the movie I'm going to review today is Twilight, which I want to review, but I decided that I can't review it properly because I have not seen the first movie or New Moon, so I can't. I feel like I could say what I want to say, and even though I don't think my opinion of the movie would change, I don't want anyone to come and be like, "Well, you haven't seen the first 2 movies, so you don't know anything, Connor." I just want to avoid any sort of naysayers who will poke a hole in my logic. So to poke a hole in the naysayers' logic, I'm gonna kind of do my research and watch the movies. So I haven't read the books. I don't even know why I'm explaining to you about Twilight. Forget that. We're not going to talk about Twilight. I'm just saying, just know this. When the Twilight reviews come, they're going to be coming from a guy who hasn't read the books. I'm not going to because they're separate. So if you have a problem with that, don't listen to my review, bitches. So anyway, today I'm going to review a really wonderful movie called The Way.
You should fly with me. Come on, a father-son trip. It'll be fun.
Yeah, right.
Most people don't have the luxury of just picking up and leaving it all behind, Daniel. We agreed that if I let you take me to the airport, you wouldn't lecture me about how I'm ruining my life.
I lied.
Hello.
Are you the father of Daniel Avery?
He was walking the road to Santiago de Compostela, 800 kilometers on the northwestern coast of Spain. This is everything it had when we found it. People have walked the path for over 1,000 years. The way is a very personal journey, Mr. Avery.
Daniel was my only child. We're gonna walk the Camino to Santiago, both of us.
Tom, this is the way.
Hi, I'm Joost. There's no mystery why I'm doing this trick.
Oh, look at cheesemakers. Hola. Hey, don't wait.
Yeah, you should try some.
No, thanks. Stop! Come with me!
Right, I'm from Amsterdam.
That's not...
What are you looking to score?
I love this guy. It wears off quick, I promise.
Hello, I'm Jack from Ireland.
How long have you been out here?
On the Camino or on this particular spot?
You pick.
Well, geez, it's hard to say.
So is it on pilgrimage to change your life?
Something like that. Dead books with the ashes. My son.
That's brilliant. Tragic, of course, but brilliant.
Oh, no!
Tom, your son. I am so sorry. I had no idea.
My son was almost 40.
Yeah, but it'll always be your baby.
What was your son like?
Smart, confident, stubborn, pissed me off a lot. Was a lot like you.
Hey, that thing's up my back.
Hey! Hey! You can take the pack! Just give me the box!
You don't choose a life, Dad. You live one.
Okay, so that was actually the whole trailer from The Way. Usually I try and cut them down, but there's not really a spot. Sorry about the audio on that, by the way. I'm recording on a new computer, so I'm kind of having to adjust to that. Also, I don't know if if you guys hear a weird buzzing sound in the background. I don't know if it's like my air conditioner or what. I'm not too sure what that is. I'm recording in a different room this time, so I'm testing new things. Okay, so let's get right into it. The Way is directed by Emilio Estevez, who, if you don't know who he is, Coach Bombay and the Mighty Ducks, I think. Was he in the Breakfast Club? Yeah, he's in the Breakfast Club. If you also don't know, is the son of Martin Sheen, who is the star of this film, and the brother of Carlos Estevez, who you all know as Charlie Sheen. So, who is not in this movie, but Martin Sheen's the star of this movie, and Emilio Estevez plays his son, so it's like a real-life father-son thing, get it? But basically, Martin Sheen plays Thomas Avery, and he's like this optometrist. He's an eye doctor, and his son, they give you sort of a backstory in the movie that basically, think of like an extreme, I hate to think of it this way, but think of like a really, conservative sort of father and like a really, outspoken liberal son. That's not what the movie's about at all, but just to paint a quick picture, Tom likes, has his thing going on, and Daniel likes to travel all the time, and, as you saw in the trailer, he says, well, most people don't have the luxury of just being able to pick it up and leave it all behind. And I kind of agree with Tom. I'm sort of that way. You can't just pick up, like, you want about your rent, what about all this stuff? But Daniel was always more of a nomad, where he was like, look, it's not about that sort of thing. And it really depends on the kind of person you are, which character you agree with. It doesn't matter, because ultimately the movie is about bringing people together, so I don't really want to spread the message of dividing people in trying to explain the characters, because I would be doing the movie a disservice. But basically, he takes his son to the airport because his son's going over to, like, Spain or something. However long later, Tom's out golfing with his doctor buddies and talking about golf and stuff, and then he gets a phone call from France, where they're like, we found your son's body, he's dead. And he's like, what? So he goes over to France to identify the body and stuff, and he's, gets him cremated, because Daniel was in the Pyrenees. If you don't know, the Pyrenees are the mountains that divide Spain and France, and he was killed during a storm. And so Tom finds out that Daniel is walking the Camino de Santiago, and it's a Christian pilgrimage route to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. Compostela in Galicia, Spain. I'm sorry about the accents. It's hard to pronounce foreign stuff if you just Galicia, Spain. You don't even want to say it like that. It's in Spain, and so it's also known as the Way of St. James, and so it's a pilgrimage route. And if you don't know what a pilgrimage is, it's a trip to a place, and during it really is what it is. Okay, the pilgrims made their way over to, I almost said Pride Rock for some reason, but that's the Lion King. Crap, I can't think of the place. You know what I mean? The story of the pilgrims, Thanksgiving, they came over here. A pilgrim is one who goes on a pilgrimage. It's a journey, and a Christian pilgrimage, and most pilgrimages, I think, still, not to alienate anybody, it's really more about the journey than the destination. It's about sort of the sacrifice and the toil of traveling, and what you learn about yourself along the way, and what you have found out about yourself and, society as a whole, or people maybe, or God, what you found out about whatever you're looking for along the way, and coming to an understanding of that thing by the time you reach your destination. At least that's how I understand it. If I'm wrong, then, tell me, or just ignore what I just said. But that's kind of what a pilgrimage is, and that's what the Camino is about. It's about looking for something. It's a spiritual thing, And so he is told that his son died the first day, and his son was all about this, and, you don't really want to think that his son just really sucked at this trail. It was a bad storm. It happens, but Tom is sort of upset, because his son died, doing this thing that he didn't agree with. But when he gets there, he decides that he's over there at first just to get his body and bring it back. But then he said, out of a combination of like mourning his son, but also doing something for his son, Tom decides to walk the Camino, to finish it for Daniel, in order maybe to understand him better, or just to finally, because his son, when they're leaving, says, you should come with me. It'd be a father-son thing. He's like, no, I can't. I have a life. And I guess maybe he wishes he had done the Camino with his son. So he decides to do the Camino. And everyone's like, oh, no, dude, no, because, it's really dangerous. It'll take, 2 months, your son just died. That should probably be a clue to you. You shouldn't do this. You're too old. You can't do this, And Martin Sheen's like, no, I'm doing it. So he takes Daniel's stuff and, his ashes, and he goes, So along the way, he meets, others, because there's a ton of people do this thing, and I don't know how you can do this thing unless you are a doctor and have, the funds, the vacation days saved up and, the time. Basically, can you take like 2 or 3 months off your job and go do this thing? You either are freelance, unemployed, or you're really rich, because I don't see any other way you could kind of go on this trip. He basically goes throughout the path and he meets people. He meets this Dutchman from Amsterdam named Joost. They all have their reasons for walking the Camino. I mean, Joost is a Dutchman from Amsterdam, and so he kind of keeps running into Joost, so he kind of just keeps walking it with him. And then they meet Sarah, who's from Canada, and so she's kind of like really abrasive towards Tom, but Tom's like, whatever, I don't like you either. But they sort of along the way find out more about each other, and then they run into Jack from Ireland, who is from Italy. Just kidding, he's from Ireland, because I just said he's Jack from Ireland, and he is a writer, and so they all kind of come together and do this pilgrimage together. And really, Tom doesn't want to have anything to do with any of them along the way. He's just kind of like, to him, it's like, I'm here to do this. I'm not here to associate with you guys. I'm here to do this for my son. And he doesn't even tell them about his dead son for a lot of it. But you come to find out, everyone else has their baggage too. They're not just doing this for fun. You find out, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. I don't think it is, because Joost is this fat Dutchman, and he tells you at the beginning, like, he was doing this. He's doing it to lose weight so he can fit into his tux for his brother's wedding. And he's a really warm but talkative person. And if you're like, sometimes, if you're like Tom and if you're there for a task and someone keeps talking at you, you just want to tell them, like, just shut up. But even if you yelled at him to shut up, Joost is still kind. He's a kind human being. So you really feel sympathy for him because he's just so nice. Sarah is really abrasive, so you kind of don't like her at first. But the fact that Tom isn't discouraged by her being mean makes you accept her. But you find out more about her. I mean, you find out that Jack from Ireland, he has writer's block, and that's why he's doing it. But you find out about these characters, like they're all the reasons that they put forward for doing this. They all tell each other these are the reasons they're on it, and it is, but there's greater meaning behind it. I mean, poor Joost does want to fit into his suit for his brother's wedding, but you find out that, like, it's also because his wife doesn't find him attractive anymore, which I'm going to go ahead and say, Joost's wife, his wife sucks then, because he seems like the nicest guy in the world, and he doesn't seem like he would ever yell at his wife or be abusive to his wife, but his wife's like, you're fat, I'm not going to sleep with you. And it's like, okay, I get not being, I guess, sexually attracted to your spouse. Well, I don't get that. I'm not married. But, like, I understand that, if your significant other is not in tip-top shape, then maybe you'll be like, if you love this man and are married to him, should his kindness not, make up for that? Joost is a nice man, and his wife, I don't know. It's not the point, but, this poor guy's going on this pilgrimage to lose weight so that his wife will find him attractive again, which he shouldn't have to do. But that's just sort of that's how kind and giving this man seems to be. But Sarah, seems mean at first, but she's been damaged by this abusive marriage she's gotten out of. I'm not going to tell you one key part of that because you'll find out later. But you find out she's in an abusive marriage, and that she's not just this mean woman from Canada. She was treated really badly by this man, and got out. Jack from Ireland, he had a desire to be the next James Joyce, but he just kind of, and he liked doing artistic stuff, but he got really used to, doing travel writing because it paid well, but he's not finding happiness through it, really. When you're not passionate about something, you get writer's block, just like him. So they're all there for a way, but Tom never really tells them why he's on it. He tells Joost, and then Joost eventually tells everybody else, but they're like, oh my, holy crap, dude. But as you can imagine, along the way, things happen to them. Tom drops, his bag falls into a river, and he deals with that. His bag gets stolen, he deals with that. And he basically deals with, like, at one point, like, they just go to, like, and they go to this dinner, and they all drink wine, and he's had a little too much to drink, but then he kind of tells them all, like, what pisses him off about them, and, he's kind of mean, but the whole movie, basically, is, I know that the way I'm explaining the plot is sort of thin, but I don't want to tell you the key parts because you're with Tom the whole time. You understand, like, at least I understood why he didn't, because his son stops going to school, like, he decides not to pursue his PhD. And his dad's like, oh my god, it's just another thing you've been quitting, you know, like, what's up with that? His son quits his, you know, his PhD to go just travel. And put yourself in a father's shoes, you know, that sounds nutty, that sounds stupid, because your father gave you all these opportunities, and you pursue them, but then you don't take them, you keep, you know, dropping them to go do all this hippie stuff, basically. Imagine how that sounds to a dad. If you're a dad, your son tells you that, what do you say, you know? So and then his son dies doing this, and so he's kind of wrestling with that, and so he comes over, and then decides to understand why his son, you know, was drawn to these things. And so he takes the time to try and be a father. It sounds stupid. It sounds stupid when I say it, you know, to be a father to his dead son. This is the last fatherly gesture he can really do. And so it's an attempt to understand his son, you know. So he tries to go on this trip. And if along the way he does not want to talk to anyone, he's there for his son, that's why he's there. I'm not trying to rehash the plot, but just think of it from Tom's point of view. He just wants to do this. He doesn't want to talk to anyone else. But he comes to understand that the whole point of the way is being in communion with people. The movie described, you know, the Camino is described as a Christian pilgrimage route. So in the, you know, not saying that Christianity is the only religion that preaches kindness, because it isn't, but the whole point of the Camino is to be in communion with other people and to come to a greater understanding of God or spirituality, or, you know, or the goodness in people. And so Tom kind of comes to learn that it's not about doing this alone, you know. And a big message of the movie is something his son had said to him, which was like, you know, there's a difference between the life you live and the life you choose. So Tom really comes to try and understand that, and to really come together with these people and to try and understand them. They all come to a greater understanding of each other. If this is less entertaining, I'm sorry, but this is a good movie. It's hard for me to explain why without spoiling it. Because if I tell you why it's good, then why would you have to go see it? You know, I'm trying to tell you, you know, good things without giving away anything. The movie is shot, by the way, along the Camino, so it is gorgeous to look at. There's plenty of scenery. There's great. You really get you feel immersed in this walk. You feel like you're on the walk with them. You know, with every, you know, kind of barren trail and every, like, city you travel through where, you know, really hospitable people. There's not really any unkind. The least kind person in the movie is Tom. And he's not even really that mean of a guy. He's maybe abrasive and he's like, I don't want to talk to you. It's a really uplifting movie because it just shows you how kind and hospitable people can be. It's a good message to preach for people to be kind to each other and to accept each other. And, you know, it's just a really good movie. Again, I'm sorry if that is broad or doesn't explain enough, but I could have just turned on the podcast and said, hey, I'm Connor Dempsey, this is the HooperCast. By the way, go see The Way, it's really good. And then, you know, peace, I'm out. I'm not going to say that. I want to try to explain this to you. I don't know where you could see this in Mobile. I saw it at the Crescent Theater, but I saw it the last day it was in there. I don't know when quite it's coming out into, you know, if it's in, I think it has like limited release in theaters, so I feel bad saying, hey, go see this. Oh, but there's no way you can. I don't want to do that, but I just want to tell you that it's a good movie, and I think you should check it out. I think if you're Christian, you should check it out. I think if you're not Christian, you should check it out. I think if you're, you know, agnostic or an atheist, hey, if you're a devil worshiper, check it out. You might not like it. Whatever. It really depends, but there's, you know, it's really... There's a lot of meaning that anybody can derive from this. I remember I was listening to a screenwriting podcast one time where they were talking to the woman who wrote Lars and the Real Girl. And if you haven't seen that, it's about basically a guy played by Ryan Gosling who kind of has like a social dysfunction in a way, it seemed, where he bought a real doll, you know, those like sex dummies, you know, but he like put it in a dress and called it Bianca and like kind of told everyone, like, yeah, I'm in a relationship with Bianca, and everyone's like, Lars thinks that this chick is real, or at least he's pretending that she is, what's going on? And so the movie's kind of built around that, but the point is, she had said, I've written this, I've written that, and I really wanted to do a movie about kindness, you know, a movie that was about kindness. You see so many movies where, as awesome as an action movie is, like, you know, it's really, a lot of movies are about being assertive and doing this, but, you know, there aren't enough movies, I think, out there. There aren't enough good movies out there or accessible movies out there that talk about kindness and being good to people. And that's not completely fair to say because there's plenty of movies where people are good to each other, but there aren't movies that are about that. There's not movies where that's the message, be kind to people. A lot of it's like, you know, find the courage within yourself and all that, which is also good messages, but this one is purely about, you know, kindness. Simple kindness, and I like that. That's why I think it's worth seeing. It's a feel-good movie. I can't imagine you coming out of this movie not feeling good about people or your life. Me personally, I came out of this movie appreciating the people in my life. I thought about everyone. I thought about how blessed I was to have a good family, a good relationship, good friends. You know, I thought about all the good things in my life. You know, there's some movies where I feel horrible about my life. What was it? The Road. God, I watched The Road. I finished it and I was like, ugh, like, I feel depressed. Like, and I know everyone says about The Road because, oh, it's like this bleak movie. The movie is super bleak. You know, there's bleak, and then like when happiness comes into Metropolis, bleak goes into the phone booth and rips off, you know, his suit, and then there's the tights and the cape, and he becomes super bleak. You know, sorry, that was goofy and stupid, but. The movie's bleak, and I came out of that just thinking, like, I feel horrible about life, you know, and this is the opposite. I came out of this feeling great about life, and so I think everyone should have that feeling. I don't really know what else to say about it. The actors are good, you know, it's just a good movie to see. So whenever it comes out, give it a look.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.